This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by LRN.FM. Feds don't want you to hear them.
I'm standing here with Baron from New Hampshire.
Hello.
And you're about to do something that has something to do with something you're angry about. Tell me about this.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't get angry, but I'm disappointed, and I regularly interact with an outfit that a lot of other people are upset about, the TSA, Transportation Security Administration. And my family and I, we go back to California, where we are originally from, to visit friends and family every year. And last year on the way home, some things happened that were disappointing, and so we decided this year we're just not going to do that. We're going to drive. It's about 3,000 some odd, 3,100 miles. We're driving round trip from New Hampshire to California in order to avoid the TSA. So after last year's trip,
After what was it?
last year we went to California. We flew back, and had a little encounter with the TSA that was not particularly friendly. While we were out there is when they changed their policies on X-ray scanners and pat-downs. And after the trip, the family decided, well, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. So we're going to drive. It'll take several days to get out there and several days to get back, but we're taking that time on the road, even exposed to additional risk, in order to avoid the uncomfortable situation with the TSA.
Yeah, well, it kind of teach your youngsters an important lesson.
It does. It teaches them, that, well, even if the government does become oppressive, we have some options, but there's a cost to that. It costs us many, many, many days, and those are days we're not going to be spending with friends and family in California because we're driving.
Like I said, it also sort of teaches them to stand up to strangers that want to touch them.
Absolutely, and that was a problem on the way back. There was some confrontation about touching, and a TSA agent getting between my wife and my son in an inappropriate way, and I had to intervene. Now, I'm comfortable doing that for maybe a reason you might ask about in a moment, but...
Well, if you think about it, it's very dangerous to get in between a mama bear and her cubs.
Absolutely.
But humans are 3 to 6 times as dangerous as bears.
They could be, yes, and my wife is a very nice person, but she was very uncomfortable and unhappy with that situation.
You said you thought that I would have a question, but I actually ended up just having a blank. So what do you think my question would be?
Well, why is it unusual that I would do such a thing? And I guess the punchline is that I deal with the TSA all the time for work. I'm an airline pilot. And I suppose there would be perception among some people that, well, the only cranky ones that don't care about security never fly, or they don't work in the industry, but really that's not the case. I do work in the industry and have for almost 20 years now. And there are many pilots in particular who are not pleased with the TSA, and they may not say we ought to just do away with it, but they're definitely upset about the level of harassment, particularly that the flight crew members get. You know, we're in the airplanes, and yet we still are exposed to all
Well,
of this.
especially considering how pretty many of the flight crew members are. That's kind of that's questionable. You going after these pretty gals and giving them special screening and touching them and stuff like that's crazy.
It's been eased a little bit, and there's promises of further easing, based on you are flight crew members and you've been vetted and all of that. But why that isn't done from the beginning, the reaction, or it's the typical government attitude. Well, we're going to do this, and then you have to ask for permission to be exempted from this. On the other hand, the reality is we were out flying these airplanes. Why are we asking you? You should be asking us, and not the other way around.
All right. What's the main thing you think other folks should do to deal with this problem?
Well, I hesitate to get too much into advice per se. I'm not a lawyer and all of that, but I will say from a safety standpoint, my number one suggestion is that you keep an eye on your belongings. There have been cases of things coming up missing at security checkpoints or whatnot. I'm not aware of a case as nefarious as a TSA agent planting contraband for some bad purpose. I'm just not aware of that. Some conspiracy theorists might have something on that, but I'm not that kind of person. But there have been numerous cases where they've been trying to separate people from their stuff, and I don't think that's a good idea personally.
Yeah.
And I would also say, if you know what the rules are, obviously, that they want to impose on you. If you want an easy time, comply with their rules. But at some point, they will be able to trip you up, and you ought to think ahead of time. How are you going to react? Will you let them for example, confiscate your articles. And here's a little hint. They cannot confiscate anything, ever. They don't have the authority to do that. They might suggest that they do. They might say, well, you can't have that. But there's actually a comma after the end of that phrase. You can't have that if you want to come in and go fly. I have never had them take anything that I wasn't ready to give them. On occasion, a water bottle or whatnot, but I've come very close to missing flights because I've said, well, I need to leave then. And I've had to mail things back, or go back to the ticket counter and say, they wouldn't let me in with this. Can you check it for me, please?
Yeah. All right.
So that's, you know, and of course, if you really don't want to be touched in an inappropriate way or x-rayed, drive. That's where we're at. And it's a tragedy for me being in the industry. I love to fly. I'm an airline pilot, you know. I love aviation. It's supposed to be fun. It's become a real drag, and a big part of that is the TSA.
So it is.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Farron. Good luck out there.
Thank you, Dave.
Nope, can't do that.
Federal agents on the streets of Keene, New Hampshire. They're investigating reports of an unlicensed radio station said to be broadcasting LRN.FM. So why all the fuss? What is LRN.FM? Well, it's probably not something these agents want you to listen to. It's a 24-hour news talk broadcast, all pro-liberty. A true authoritarian free zone. Tune in at LRN.FM to listen or broadcast their signal. LRN.FM. Feds don't want you to hear them.